What's up, guys? It's Eventon here. Today, we really wanted to talk about something I think that kind of flew under the radar for a while, including myself. I think a lot of people overlooked these new Exigent drone Mutaplasmids that have actually been around for a little bit more than a month. So the way you can actually get these Mutaplasmids is by running the new crab sites they introduced a little over a month ago. I think the reason why there wasn't a lot of focus on it is because those sites are pretty much exclusively ran by capital ships. There's only like a handful of ways you can get them, is either by running the crab sites, by killing someone running the crab sites and stealing their loot, or by buying them off the market. That's really the only ways you can get them. And they run almost exactly like your typical mutaplasmids that you would add to whether assault damage controls, plated modules, or when it comes to shield extenders, things like that. I even have a few here. You can just kind of see it as an example. So mutaplasmids are a way to basically push certain modules beyond their normal limits. So whether it's CPU fitting, power grid, really the stats depend on the module itself. As you can see here, for like a magnetic stabilizer, increased damage, fire rate, and CPU, like that's a pretty good one right there. But there's some ones with a lot of module or a lot of stat changes, like you see here with the abyss damage control. There's a time like reactivation or like a delay based on like how long the module is active. There's the CPU, there's the 4 different resistances and all that stuff. So people were curious for a long time, like, hey, could we do this for drones? Because it seems like we're just buffing up defenses and gunnery as well as like missile weapons. Why not some of the drones? And CCP did do that. They introduced that with the new drone metaplasmid, not drone metaplasmid sites, but the new crab sites that involve rogue drones. So the easiest way to find these metaplasmids, just doesn't matter whether it's the rogue ones or just the normal ones in general, is you open up the market menu under ships and modules. Then metaplasmids, this is actually, you see all the metaplasmids. So there's ones for weapon upgrades. So these are for all the weapon types in the game. Warp disruption, webs, shields, engineering metaplasmids. So there's all kinds of stuff, but there's a new one here, which looks a bit more yellow. The other ones seem a bit more red. This one seems to be a bit more yellow, which is drone metaplasmids. And wow. So I think, in my opinion, CCP really, I don't want to say outdid themselves, but they did an amazing job. And just because I think they should have gone this way. At first, I'm like, this seems a bit much, because if you look at some of these, there's basically 4 different ones for each drone category. So there's heavy drones, there's light drones, medium, as well as sentries. You can even boost up the drone damage amplifiers themselves, but they are just so expensive right now. 1.4 billion is what they're up on the market for. So probably the reason why they're so expensive is because you could put on a drone damage amplifier on any ship in the game for the most part. As long as they have drones and they have low slots to fit, you can put this on there. So you can see all the different drone damage amps that it's available for. Same thing with some of these fighters. So you can actually use them for fighters as well. The fighter ones seem to be much cheaper, probably because there's not as many carrier and super carrier pilots out there versus people that fly every other drone boat ship in the game. There's just way more pilots that are flying these type of ships. So I'm assuming this is just more popular, so that's why it's more expensive. So looking at these, so the main thing that separates these, I think, from the typical mutaplasmids is when you look at the stats on these, the stat attribution is based on which one of the 4 that you pick. Those stats that are covered in that, like, so this durability one involves structure, shield, as well as armor hit points. Those ones are guaranteed to be positive, which is really cool. But the issue is on the flip side is that you have a huge range of positive and negatives that can go for some of the other stats, like you see with armor, or sorry, with damage, accuracy, max velocity, optimal range, and tracking as well. So you can see that the durability one affects their shield, armor, and structure. The firepower one, I think, just affects their damage, which is arguably very important for most of the drones they're going to be using, especially for like PvE activities. Navigation is for speed, and I'm really glad they tied this alongside turret tracking. It would have been nice if they, I don't know, found a way to do it 2-in-1, but it is true that as drones go faster and orbit around quicker, or if they're shooting, if they're moving faster, they need to have higher tracking to offset it, because certain drones with certain bonuses, or even in certain, even like wormhole mechanics and stuff like that, they can actually fly so fast around a target when they're orbiting it, they're just not hitting their target at all whatsoever, because they're almost like out tracking their own guns. Same thing here with the projection. So the projection increases optimal range as well as a fall off, but again, all the other negatives. So I really like this mechanic just because there's so many stats that need to be adjusted. I think I counted all these, and it's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. So 8 stats total. I think the most that was prior was the assault damage controls at 7, while the other ones were typically, I would say, anywhere between 3 to 5 stats that were getting changed. at any given point. And so they have those for every single basically type of drone that exists. Unfortunately, none of the Logi drones, I guess they're not called drones, they're actually called bots. So the light maintenance bot, all that kind of stuff, they're not getting any kind of Mutaplasmids, unfortunately. So just kind of looking at these, I just wanted to just kind of go through the prices of some of these. I would assume that the firepower ones are the most expensive just because people always want more damage on their drones. But then again, if it's going to come at the cost of a heavy tracking penalty or whatever it may be, you know, even some of the sentry drones, which I thought was kind of interesting because I was looking at the sentry drone. The durability one is actually really inexpensive because you don't really need extra HP on a sentry drone because typically if it's getting targeted, it's for PvP purposes or whatever it is. Projection on a sentry drone seems like a pretty good idea. What was there was a durability. Yeah, so like also this one, like the accuracy fallout, but there was a precision one. Yeah, I thought this was kind of funny because I don't think this one even had a speed stat. I think before when they initially released it, there was a speed stat that would like increase its speed, but as you guys know, sentry drones don't move. So increasing the speed even by 1,000% of 0 is still 0. So just the increased tracking, I thought that was pretty interesting, but it looks like they fixed that already. So we're gonna go ahead and buy a few of these. I've already bought one for the light drones just because I wanted to see how the layout worked and all that stuff. But we'll go ahead and buy one of the firepower ones because I actually do a bit of ratting in my Ishtar. I actually sometimes do dual box Ishtars when I'm running C3 sites when I don't feel like massing the hull with like 2 Praxis and stuff like that. I bought what was it? This was a navigation. Maybe we'll try a damage light one. I'm skipping out on the mediums because those are the drones I feel like I use the absolute least. What was that? Was that navigation? Just to double check. Yeah, navigation. Well, we'll just go ahead and get a second navigation. I think that one is fine. And then we'll go ahead just to kind of so you guys see how this plays out. Let's go ahead and buy a durability sentry just because I think it would be really funny to see. And like, I think there is some legitimacy to actually, if it's really inexpensive, like these sentry drone ones, even though the stat that you're trying to get isn't guaranteed to be positive, maybe it's worth buying 3 or 4 of these and just hoping to roll the right stats. Like if genuinely all you wanted was the extra fall off and optimal range, you don't care about anything else, that could be another way to do it. So we actually have a handful of these here. Let's go ahead and start with the light drones first. So as you can see here, with the navigation one, we're guaranteed to have better maximum velocity and tracking, but everything else has a pretty high potential of being negative. I'm gonna go ahead and put these side by side. We'll go ahead and drag the warriors in here. And in my opinion, and actually I probably should have said this first, if you look at, you can actually see the drones that it can be used with if you look at the info of the Mutaplasmid itself, and then you scroll down. In my honest opinion, I think the only things that these should be used for is probably T2 drones, the faction drones, so like the Federation, Navy, Hobgoblin, or the augmented drones. I think for things like, especially like Abyss, that's probably part of the reason why I noticed that the medium damage Mutaplasmids are so expensive, because Helas are extremely popular in the Abyss. So I would imagine that if you put these medium firepower Mutaplasmids on, say, your augmented hammerheads, and that you're doing a ton of damage for that, you know, that last spawn in one of the rooms, like the Abyssal Overmind, I think that huge battleship that takes a ton of damage, you can call in your drones, you put out these ones that have super roided up damage, and you're just trying to down that as fast as possible. Or maybe your initial fleet of drones, let's say like the Federation, like the Fed Navy hammerheads or whatever, and you actually want to get the extra durability, so you can actually keep them out in field longer. Even the sites that do focus them, even though you're doing less damage, you can just keep them out in field, because there is a lot of time wasted when you're trying to recall your drones back and forth. So same thing here. So I'm actually using the speed ones, the navigation Mutaplasmids on these, like the warriors. I'll also do it on the Hobgoblin too, just because I'm curious to see how much the speed and stuff makes a difference. And I think it would be cool to have some just super fast warriors that can chase down interceptors and bubblers and things like that, just for fun. And this is mostly just for experimental purposes as well. You can see here that with the stats that are going to be altered if you do it, so there's a range that the accuracy fall off could go all the way down to 1,400 meters, all the way up to 2,300 meters, which is kind of another thing that I've heard just as of right now. The orbiting range and the how do I say? I guess like the Bissell drones, whatever you want to call them. I guess they're called rogue drones now. There's actually a separate stat for them. I probably should have covered this too. This is kind of what you get if you don't kind of plan out this stuff ahead of time. So if you go down here to the stats, the drones, they are no longer it's called a mutated drone specialization, because once I turn this Warrior 2, it is no longer considered a Minmatar drone, and now it's considered a mutated drone. So you need to kind of level up a whole different mutated drone specialization. I usually just level this up to 3. That seems to be good enough for the most part to kind of get the best bang for your buck, or like your time or whatever. But I think it's been waiting long enough. Let's go ahead and mutate this. So we got the mutation. So I could see one drone. Interesting. Do I have to do these one at a time, or is it just one drone at a time? I could have sworn that one of these gave you a stack of 5. Maybe I misheard that. I could have sworn that was the case, so I did not know it was one drone each. But that's fine. I think this is kind of good to know. So the accuracy increased, the hit points went down, damage went down by negligible amount. I think that's a huge deal. The velocity is really fast. Optimal range didn't help very much. Shield HP, not a huge deal, but the structure hit points went by quite a bit. And yeah, we rolled really, really well on the velocity and the turret tracking. So this could be very good as a drone that could pursue those interceptors or things that are flying far away or that will kind of cut your drones away. I think this could be good. This was maybe a mistake. I could have sworn this only worked. I could have sworn you put in a stack of 5 and it did all 5. Maybe I was wrong. And just to make sure that is the case, or maybe is each drone unique? So I'm trying to figure this out just as much as you guys are. I just want to make sure I'm not accidentally using this next one right after. Or if I interrupted something by doing this. Let's go ahead and put a hobgoblin in here. And if this Exigent or Exigent light drone Mutaplasmid works. Okay, so we're doing the same thing again, except we're going to do a hobgoblin. We're going to roll it. Yeah, that uses it. I had no idea this was just for one drone, to be honest. Interesting. Okay. This is good to know. So this is also very, very good for ships like the Gila that you only need 2 drones to make use of it, rather than some ships like the Dominix or the Armageddon or the Ishtar that kind of requires 5 heavy drones in order to make the full use of its damage. The Gila, all you need to do is just Mutaplasmid out 2 drones, and that's pretty much the majority of your damage. So this is a good learning experience. This is kind of, I just realized this. So as you can see here, it says I need to buy the specialization skill book. I don't even have that yet. Though I do think I might want to do this with a, this actually might want to buy a Gila and start ratting in a Gila instead. But I do have Ishtar, so I might just buy 5 of these Exigent heavies and just kind of buff up my Ogre 2s and just see how much faster I can run sites or how well these mutated drones are going to work. So now here's for the Sentry drone. Let's go ahead and put a Curator. Curator is one I use quite a bit in wormhole combat sites because it does have a good like medium range for the most part. Like the Wardens, I felt like were just too far of range and it had lacking too much damage. So again, on this one, all we got, the only guaranteed benefit we were going to get was it was the durability one. So everything else was a pretty bad negative, in all honesty. So this is a very, very bad roll. But again, we only spent 3 million on it, so not the hugest deal in the world. But yeah, so I mean that's a risk you can run. But again, like if let's say you wanted to run the damage one, and that's 40 or 50 mil or however much that is, maybe it's just better to buy 10 of these and just hope you get lucky rather than just buying that one, right? Let's go ahead and use the last one that we have here, the heavy. I'm gonna go ahead and put in an Ogre 2. Man, it feels bad putting that in. And just to kind of double check, I wonder if there's any, I don't believe this can use geckos or anything like that. So yeah, you can't use geckos, you can't use any of these specialized drones as well as E-War drones. So you can't put these on E-War drones, although I do think that would be pretty cool if you could put these on E-War drones. So let's go ahead and roll this. We are guaranteed to get higher damage. Accuracy is good, that's fine. The damage roll was pretty low. Optimal range is terrible. I don't know about this one. And so like we're talking like extremely small fractions here. Like that is unnoticeable. So I'm kind of curious if they're also going to be reworking some of this tracking stuff, because I'm not even sure 0.54 then like there's about 11 digits after that. So I'm not sure if that's going to be really a thing that's going to continue on. I don't know. Like, I'm not sure if I'm a huge fan of having that many. That's even more than 11. That's like 15. So I wish they would kind of just simplified it, or maybe made the tracking a bit more aggressive. But again, I do know that these drones are balanced. The numbers are very volatile when you tweak them. I'm sure if you change it by 0.1 or 0.1 something a little bit too far, then all of a sudden it becomes either too overpowered or too underpowered. So yeah, the damage wasn't that great. We did have better accuracy, but everything else seems to be in the negative or just dead even, which seems to be all right. So yeah, and that's about it. So I was not expecting that, to be honest. So I would still say the fact, I could have sworn you put in a stack of 5 drones and it would spew out all 5. But in that case, I would say as of right now, unless you're running a Gila or something that doesn't require like a rattlesnake or whatever it is, or a worm, this is probably very good for those drones, because you only need probably 2 and maybe 4 in case you wanted to have backups just in case. But if you are running your standard like Ishtar or any other drone ships that do require 5 drones, the price points for these might be a bit high for your taste. So, and I actually meant to look at this one too. So attributes of this. Yeah, the drone damage bonus can go up to 20%. Wow. The CPU usage could be deep in the negative, but also in the positive as well. So that's probably why the drone damage amp is so expensive. But overall, I can't wait for these, honestly, to get a better price. This is actually part of the reason why I waited a whole month for these, because these have been out for about a month now, maybe a little bit longer. But I would assume probably given another month or two, more than nullsec people are going to be running these crabbing sites and probably putting more into the store. I'm really hoping to see these probably get down to about half of the price that they are now in another month or so. But yeah, that's pretty much it. I hope you guys learned a little bit about some of these new Exigent mutated drones. There's some things I learned today that I didn't know, and there's some things I wish I kind of wish I knew before going in, but that is fine. So yeah, that's pretty much it. If you guys have any questions, comments, or anything like that down below, go ahead and put that down in the comments, and I'll be sure to see you guys next time. And I hope you guys fly safe.